All right, so I am back in OnShape here. We're going to continue with the red block that we need to create. So I'm going to go to my create document. We'll title this red block. Don't forget, use your first and last name so we can clearly identify that this is your project and your drawing when you turn it in. So again, we will be sketching on the front plane. So I'm going to sketch on the front plane. So I left click on the front, get the sketch one image popping up here. And now we're just going to kind of draw this rectangle. And I'm going to use the origin point to draw it. So I'm just going to kind of pop this in. I'll left click on that corner. Now, if you remember the overall width, height, and depth of our block, in this case, we're doing width and height. So my width was 1.5. I'll hit enter and that pops over. Now my height was 1 inch, so I'll enter that and hit enter as well. That's all I need for this sketch is just this rectangle. So we'll go ahead and put a check mark on that. Now I'm going to extrude that back to my depth. So we'll go ahead now and extrude that. Again, I'll flip the direction because I like to have these blocks going back into the screen rather than coming out of them. I could again change this up to next, up to face, up to part, up to vertex, through all if you want, but blind with just a dimension on it is fine. And again, we know here that the overall depth when we're finished drawing the part will be one inch. So we're going to leave it at 1 inch. We're adding material here, so I'll just go ahead and check that. All right. Now we kind of come back, and now we're actually going to kind of start to draw some of these in. And if you're recalling with the red block, looking at your sheets there as far as your project plan goes, we know that the top corner of this block comes out over here. And then, of course, we've got just a small little portion that's coming right here that is also projecting out of this block. So a couple of different ways that I could go and solve this problem, but I'm going to start now with a sketch. I'm going to sketch on this surface. So notice it's the face. OnShape identifies this as the face of extrude one. I'm going to come over here to my view cube and click on the front view just so I can kind of come in and do this a little bit. And now instead of drawing a rectangle, I'm going to actually draw a line. So, and I'm going to trace the outside of the line of the rectangle that I have. Notice how it kind of auto snaps into those corners, which is fine. Now I'm going to come back here, place this. We're going to go up, make sure that it's giving you either a parallel or perpendicular. We're just going to kind of place these right now to complete this. We're not worried about dimensions yet. So, all right, now, so my first dimension here is going to be 0.5. So that moves that over. And here, this is also going to be 0.5, but notice how it's wanting to draw a line. So I'm still in that line. So I got to get out of that line tool command. So I was still in it. So I just hit escape to get out of that line tool. And then I can double click on this. So we can kind of move it around this way. So not exactly one of the best ways to do it. So because we don't really know. So we've got to actually physically add a dimension on this one right now. And to do that, we're going to go right up here to our dimension tool. And I'm going to click on that, bring it up, and now make this 0.5. So, all right, so I've got that. And we think we're done. So except for the fact that we're missing a dimension. So we've got the dimension from here to here, and we've got the dimension from here to here. And you might be thinking, well, I need a dimension that's showing from here to here as well. Well, you don't really, because remember, we dimensioned overall from here to here is 1.5. So putting another dimension here would just be redundant. We don't need that because we know 1.5 minus half leaves this to be 1/2 inch. So we don't need that redundant dimension. And we also know that over here we're 1 inches from this endpoint to that endpoint is 1 inch. So we know that one, but what we don't know is this dimension right here. So we've also got to add that dimension. So I'm going to just click on that, and it doesn't matter. I could do this line over here, 0.5, and change that. Now I've got this fully constrained and fully dimensioned. Now, I do want to point out, if I had not made sure, and this is a mistake that sometimes students make, if I had not made sure that these lines were parallel and snapping in at parallel or perpendicular, if I didn't have that, if I changed this dimension on this line would stay the height that it was, and you'd get a skewed type of drawing here, and you'd be kind of thinking to yourself, what's going on? Why isn't that happening? So that's why we also want to pay attention when we're drawing lines. If the line needs to be parallel or perpendicular, we want to make sure that it pops in and is actually parallel or perpendicular. All right, so I'm good to go with that. So I'll go ahead, and my sketch is done. So I'll hit the check mark for sketch 2. I'm going to come back over here now to the isometric drawing, our isometric view, and I can see now I need to extrude this as well. So I'm going to click on extrude, and we'll select this shape. Now I can either select this shape, see how it kind of goes back and forth from one to the other. So you want to make sure you're selecting the right sketch part that you want to have extruded. So, and I'm going to click on this. Now, it's coming out from there because it's wanting to add more material. We don't want to add material, we want to remove material. So we're going to click on that. And of course, here our depth in this case is going to be 0.5. So I'm going to change that depth to 0.5. You'll see where we cut back into there, and I'm done. I'll just go ahead and click out of that. So now I've got my extrusion. Let's go back to the front view, so see what that looks like. Pretty good. So come back to my isometric view. I'm going to zoom in now. And one more sketch. In this case, I could sketch on this plane, and I could sketch the rectangle over here. But I want to show you this here, how I can also sketch on any plane depending on where I need material to come out. So I'm going to sketch on the top plane now. So come over to the top plane, and we'll just use the rectangle. Pick up on either one of these corners will work. So, and of course, I'm going to come right over here. I'm just going to make sure, notice how it highlights the line. So now I snap in, and I'm setting a constraint with this rectangle to be tied in both up here at this corner and that line. I could also just drop it here and then change my dimension. Either way, but you're automatically giving it that 0.5 when you're picking off of another geometric component on the part. So let's go ahead, and I'll just click there. And then, of course, I need to change this to 0.5 and hit enter. I'm already at 0.5, so we're good to go, but it gives you the option. You can still enter it if you want. So notice the sketch could not be solved. Well, that's because it already knew that that was where you were at. So we'll just hit escape here, and we'll leave this be for right now. We don't really need that because you constrained it to that line automatically already. So it was good to go. So let's hit the check mark. So, and now we want to extrude this as well. I'm going to go back into my isometric view because I find it to be a little bit easier to see what's going on here with the isometric. And now I want to extrude that shape as well. So again, coming down, I can extrude this, or I can extrude that. Now, see how it kind of differentiates, because you've got two closed features. You got this as a closed feature, and this is a closed feature. Well, we know this is what we want to extrude, but we don't want it to go up. We want it to actually be removed and go down. So we'll click on remove over here, set this to 0.5. So, and hit our check mark, and now we've got that cut out. So let's go to the front view just to double check. So is that what my front view looks like on my paper? Yep. So we're good to go there. Let's move over here to the side view. So let's kind of pick up. So you can kind of click it that way, or just move it enough to get you there. So is this what my right view, side view looks like? Yep, that's pretty good. So let me kind of move on here, clicking around, and see what the top view looks like. Does that look like what my top view looks like on my handout? Yep, sure does. So let's come back, move my isometric. And the last thing we want to do is apply some color to this. So right here to our appearance panel, we'll check on that. We'll add the appearance. So we'll get the color palette pulled up. Now remember, in this case, if you just select an individual sides or faces of this part, it'll only color that. So we want to window over and highlight everything because we want the whole thing to be done. And then I'll click on red, check mark the face appearance, drop that out, and now I've got the red color associated with it. This drawing is done and completed. So we'll go ahead and go back to our main menu in OnShape, and you now have your red block drawn.